Good.
Good.
So, guys, no pressure, but you better keep this up.
Thanks a day. Come on, guys.
We'll end with a song and dance.
Looking forward to that. I think we're going for deep tissue.
I'm sorry, do you need my assistance?
It's not you, probably.
Yeah, that's because the USB drive is actually in the back of the rack. So if he really wants one for his Mac, we would have to grab one from 160.
I see a Red Bull now. It's all over.
So I can go get one if he wants one.
The wise guys on that side. Still.
I do.
You're in California.
Okay. All right, thanks, Alvin.
Yeah. So, yeah. Somebody's vacation papers.
Yeah, good.
What?
Speak louder.
You're gonna, man, you're really gonna have to step it up, just like 2 notches.
Okay.
Oh, that's
Is that your nightclub voice?
Yes.
now we're talking.
All right.
A little karaoke going here.
Don't get her wound up.
Now, she's on one side. Slap me. The administrative decisions. Well, they don't have any expectations. I've been saying for years, we're gonna have a walk up. If you don't tell me some of the questions, Laura, you're gonna have 10.
Yeah.
We end up in a situation where the exam is tomorrow, and we don't have the exam tested. And you know, they're emailing us in
Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to ExamSoft's new way of thinking about assessment presentation. My name is Brian Weaver. I'm a legal channel manager here at ExamSoft. I'm accompanied by Beverly Mendel. She's also part of the law team. She's an account manager here at ExamSoft. We also have Emmanuel Pierre. He's also part of the law team, and he's an account manager also at ExamSoft. So, thanks. That makes it easy. All right. So, really, what we wanted to talk about, or try to present to you guys today, is kind of the options that are available to you through ExamSoft and some of the features we have that really we don't see being used fully in the legal education community and by law schools itself. So what we wanted to do today is try to kind of start that conversation and just expose you guys to the actual feature sets that are available to you, and also the benefits of actually using those feature sets fully. And specifically, what we wanted to cover today are some of the general concerns in the legal community, especially in the legal education community. And I'm sure all of you have heard the same things. There's kind of a general sense of uncertainty on where things are going, what accreditation needs might be in the future, generally what the student environment is like right now, what the upcoming numbers might be. There just seems to be some general sense of uncertainty that we really think that using the suite in the full way may be able to mitigate and help in a certain way. That being said, one of the major things that we think can help in this environment is feedback. Specific feedback in general at the program level, at the student level, and also generally at the faculty level. So we're going to cover some of the benefits of that and how that can actually be used, and how those benefits can actually be used to further the improvement generally of a program. And we're also going to show you, well, once we show you the benefits, exactly what tools are you going to be using to start this process, and how those tools specifically work. And then, of course, we want to finish up with some of the new features that we recently developed that may be of use for you guys, and also some of the new features that are in development that'll be coming up a little bit later this year and early next year. All right, so primarily what we're talking about today and fully using the suite is leveraging the kind of embedded data in assessments, specifically by providing feedback or garnering feedback from those assessments and all that data that's embedded there to improve the adjustment of learning outcomes, curriculums, and making sure that institutional goals are met. And it all starts, we think, garnering the full power of specific feedback really starts with getting that feedback back to the students. All right, so it all starts with actually giving students actionable feedback that they can use to improve their learning outcomes and their performance across their assessments. And that, what we found is that really kind of furthers student satisfaction at the institutional level, and also further student engagement. And the way we found in other client verticals is when you use this type of feedback, it generally kind of feeds off itself in what we call a feedback loop. So once you get the students engaged and get them involved in the process of taking action on the specific feedback you give them to improve their performance, that naturally leads into building the sort of data set that can be used at a program level to both review the curriculum to making sure institutional goals are met and program goals are met, and also using those reviews to take action to adjust the curriculum, and that's part of curriculum planning. Now, once you start to actually use that data to give feedback, you start to build a history there that can then be used by certain members of the academic success program to identify opportunities for student remediation, and also to build some sort of program there, or put some sort of system in place that is going to generally guide students that may be a little bit at risk to improve the retention rate and help the institution save the investment that they've actually made in the student learning process. And finally, once you actually start to access this data, you're going to have that historically, so you'll be able to use that for any future needs that might concern accreditation. All right, so why do we think this would make such a difference? Why do we think this is so powerful? Well, the reason we think that is because we've actually seen this across different client verticals. We've seen this actually operate in client verticals like medical schools, pharmacy schools, dental schools, nursing schools. They actually use their assessments in a more formative manner in this way to take that feedback and give it back to the students, give it back to the faculty, and use it at a program level so that they can improve their learning outcomes and meet all of their institutional goals at a broad level. And I know we've been talking about it with a lot of you. We've had conversations before Cali. We've tried to corner a bunch of you at Cali. We've gotten a lot of raised eyebrows, and do you really know how law works? You guys know what you're doing. And that skepticism might be natural in law. All right, so let's take a look at, and we do have clients that work with us where this is actually proven valuable to them, and it's actually made a difference in what they've been able to do on a program level and also for their students, and we put that out there. We have them present white papers at conferences. They've done webinars for us because they're so enthusiastic about this method. But let's take a look at certain hypothetical situations that might demonstrate a little bit on how the detailed data that you can get out of your assessments would help in certain situations. All right, so we have a student, and her name is Sally, all right, and she's in law school. And generally, the way law school works is Sally goes through a full semester in a course. They cover all the course material, and then at the end she gets one summative exam that counts for everything. And after the next semester starts, Sally gets some feedback, generally a letter grade, that lets her know for that whole course how she did. All right. Yes, that's feedback, but how much action at that point can you take on that? And how detailed is that feedback? Say it's a criminal law class. What does that really let her know? What does that tell Sally about what she knows or what she learned for that whole semester in criminal law? It gives her a little bit, but there's so much more that could be provided to her. So she would have a more detailed understanding of exactly what she learned. All right? And what if you could break down the individual course subject matter into individual categories or more specific detail, and then keep track of those individual learning outcomes for each of those different categories of subject? Wouldn't that be of much greater value individually to Sally as a student? And if this was provided in a formative way along the way before one summative exam, wouldn't that give Sally some actionable information that she could actually use to improve her performance, we think that's valuable. And like I said, with other client verticals that use this suite in this way, they've demonstrated that this is powerful, and it has it provides a great opportunity both for students and programs to make adjustments to along the way on a broad level improve their adhesion to institutional goals and also the performance of their students. All right, now we've taken a look at exactly how it will work for a specific in a specific student situation. But on a broader level, this kind of feedback and this kind of data also proves valuable. Let's take a look at kind of a higher level situation where feedback can be used in a certain manner to improve institutional performance. So let's say we have Dean Jane, who is responsible for a program or runs a program. And the feedback she's getting now is general. She sees for a certain course subject how certain professors are performing across the board, but it's still general information. All right, it's not detailed and specific enough for Dean Jane to actually take this and adjust the curriculum. Or even how much information using this would you get with a curriculum review. Really at this level, not very much. But what if Dean Jane could get a more detailed view at student performance across individual categories? The same way you have the breakdown for an individual student like Sally, Dean Jane would be able to access that same detailed data in a way that would allow her to actually make certain adjustments, say in an individual subject, say manslaughter as a part of the criminal law course, where she can actually see the detailed performance not only across different instructors, but on a general level, she could actually see that student performance in that specific subject matter might be a little bit under the norm and something she might want to take into account, both when she reviews the curriculum itself and how that's meeting institutional goals, and also specific adjustments she can make to individual, maybe feedback to individual professors to adjust individual pedagogy. Now, like I said before, these types, or this type of information that's given back to individual members of an institution generally work in loops and they feed off each other. All right, and it all starts with student feedback. And we'll take a look at specific instances or examples of that that we can give a little bit later on. But it all starts with giving students an opportunity where they have the information they need to make adjustments in their learning focus so that they can improve their own learning outcomes. And also that same information proves valuable to faculty themselves. They have this information at hand that's going to allow them to, at a detailed level, understand exactly how they're imparting this information to their students. And if they're being successful in a way that can affect the institutional goals and institutional performance level also. And then finally, also at the program level, it allows administrators and higher level members of the institution itself to do things like have this set of historical data at hand if it's ever needed, either internally or externally. And it also allows them to align the curriculum in a deeper way with their institutional goals. And now what we really see, and you might think of how ExamSoft can actually help with that. The way that we see that happening is right now, generally in law, for the majority of you guys, you're using a kind of basic set of the full feature set itself. You guys generally use what we call FlexSite Express, or it will soon be Exam Intelligence Express. You can just see from the feature set here that you don't have all the options that are available to you to affect and give you the flexibility so far as your individual assessment creation that the full suite allows. So there's a full feature set there that will help you actually start this process, start to get a more detailed data set out of your assessments and be able to give that information back to people where they can make adjustments to make it valuable to them. So we've talked a little bit about the benefits and what all of you have available now to you, but you're not using. So what we want to show you a little bit now is exactly how you would start that process, exactly what tools you would use to start that process. And we also wanted to give you guys a sneak peek of what's upcoming, and that's going to be the new portal. You guys will start to hear about that and see that in about a month. What we've done is kind of redesigned everything to make sure all the functionality is a little bit more accessible, and to make sure that the functionality is all in one place, so you don't have to go here to do this and go there to do that. Everything should be in one central location and allow you to do everything you need to do for your total exam administration fairly easily. And Emmanuel's going to tell you a little bit more about that.
Coming soon, we're obviously going to switch over to a brand new portal. And right now we have a different site where you can go to for scoring. We have a site where you can go to manage your students, your exams, and your courses, and a separate site where you can go to create your questions and your exams and your categories. But with this new redesign, we basically combine everything into one. So now you go to one website where you can do everything. Okay. We've basically added tips on every single button on the website, just to guide you, to let you know exactly what each button does. We've also added on every single page tutorials and videos, just to guide you. If you have any questions or if you get stuck on anything, you can just access them and it will be right there showing you how to do everything. We've also added a community for you. This is where you can get immediate answers to all of your questions, not only from our support staff, but also from your peers. We've also had the ExamSoft University. This is where you'll be able to find webinars, videos, quick reference guide, best practices, and a whole lot more. With this new redesign, especially if you are using the ExamSoft Intelligence package, you make it a lot easier for you now to add your questions. You can either import your questions or you can just create a question. Now this is an example of how to create a multiple choice question. Okay. First you put in your item stem. The way you put it in, this is exactly how your students are going to see it during the exam. Okay. And for multiple choice questions, you can add up to 26 answer choices for each question. Okay. And categories. Now this is basically where the real power lies. This is where, like, once you have your categories added, you'll be able to track your students' performance and improve learning outcomes by linking every single one of your questions to as many categories as needed. To link a question to a category, just click on the green button to add it, and the red button just to unlink it. Now your categories are unlimited. You can have as many as you want to. You have unlimited trees, and you can, like I said before, you can basically link every one of your questions to as many categories as you want to. There's not a limit.
And then if your category structure is set up on a program level where you're trying to set those categories to meet institutional goals, and you don't want those adjusted by individual faculty, with the new portal you'll be able to grant access at a granular level to only allow something like faculty access to see those categories in a read-only view. So You can set those goals a little bit higher or individually and give faculty actual access to them. It's up to you, but you'll have the option in the new portal.
And also using ExamSoft Intelligence, when creating your questions, you also have different options. This is where you can set the weight for the question, and also for multiple choice questions, you can randomize the choices where every student will see them in different order. And also you can do partial grading, and we can also do online for the questions. Now grading essays. Now if you're already using our essay grading tool online, you notice the big difference. Now you're able to see the whole answer on the screen, and you also have the option to scroll down if needed. We've also added a progress bar on top where you can see exactly how far along you are in your essay grading progress. And you can change the spacing if you want to make everything easier to read. And of course, you can add the points for the essay question and comments. Comments that can be used as feedback once you release that information from the system back to your students so they can know exactly how they do. And you can do that for every single essay question you grade. Now we've talked about using categories to provide feedbacks to your student and faculty. Now Bev is going to show you an example of what we're talking about as far as categories go.
Thank you, Emmanuel. So we're going to take a look at student feedback, and so why that student feedback is so important. So this is all of the reporting options that are available to you with Exam Intelligence. You have some of the reporting features available in Exam Intelligence Express, but you don't have the power of the categories, which is to track those learning outcomes and make a difference on the student level and the programmatic level and that feedback. So let's take a look at Sally again. She just finished her exam and you want to give her some feedback. With a few clicks of a button, you can get all, because you have the information in our system, you can send all of your students in this course their individual feedback. We'll start with comparing how she's doing against the rest of the class. We'll also have that category performance, so she can understand at different learning outcomes how she's performed compared to the rest of the class. Now it's really simple to read. She can see using the triangles areas that she's doing well in and may not be as concerned about. Orange means that these are areas that she may want to review. They're not her strong points. And red are areas of concern. She's significantly below her peers in these areas. And now she has some feedback and she knows what she can target. If it's a midterm, she can change for finals. If it's the finals, she knows that information for a next course or for preparing for the bar. She has some feedback that can actually impact her when she is studying to make a change next time she's assessed on this. I'm going to go back. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that was the end of the slide. So I want to talk about this. Students love this feedback. We have a number of schools that release this feedback every time they give an exam, immediately upon giving an exam. And what we found are that students rely on that feedback and will demand that other professors also give them this detailed feedback because they don't want to just know their score. They want to know where they went wrong if they know that that's an option. And there was a professor that went out of town for a week, and when he got back, he gave an exam right before he went out of town. When he got back, there was a line out the door of his office, all the way around the corner, because the students were wanting to know, even though they got their scores on their exam, they wanted to know more detail. Well, I haven't gotten my reports. And that's saying something. The students do demand this, and they do value this, and they know what institutions, like they're going to talk about what institutions are giving them that feedback, are helping them prepare, and they'll feel a tie and a connection to those institutions. There has been research done on that feedback leads to feeling more connected and more part of that community. And so it really is something that students value, and it can help change if there's, especially if they're struggling in certain areas, knowing that, they may not know that or make that connection, they now have that available. At a program level, you also want feedback, and your feedback is going to look different than what the students need. You want to see overall, let's take a look at just one exam. You can run a report to see on that exam how students performed. You can see the range as well as the average, but you get a histogram so you can understand the spread, and the KR20 to understand the reliability. If the same students were to take that same exam again, how likely are they to perform in the same way? You get that information. You also get that category information on learning outcomes. So you can see the breakdown of the students and how they perform. Now this is a report that is a summary report. It's a bit of all of our reports put together that's very easy to read. We mark the range and the average, and you can see which learning outcomes you need to target. If you want a more detailed mathematical report, we do have a separate category report you can run. We do have all of these reports separately if you want more detailed, but this is just an easy to read, easy to show someone and see visually what's going on. After that, you can see the students that are at risk. So now you know which students on that exam performed really poorly and may be in trouble for that course, or maybe in trouble at institutional level. And so you can target and identify which students are consistently struggling and help them. Make sure that you're providing support for them. They have their individual reports, so you can pull those too for those students that are at the bottom 27%, so that you can target what they need, or if there is an ASP group, they can go and they can show them that report and they can get help in the areas that they need. You know who's struggling and who you should look out for as well. And so that's the data that you're given so that you know that information. And as a program, you can help find those students and make sure that they're going to remain in the program and are getting the help that they need. In addition to that, we also have the question performance. So you can analyze at a granular level, how did each individual question perform? And we also have an item analysis report, so I'm just going to transition into that, which has detailed information as well on the item analysis. And what it allows you to see on this example, it's a multiple choice question, you're able to see how difficult the question was, how many students were able to get the correct answer, as well as all the other answer choices that the students picked. Well, I can see, for example, B was chosen one time. Perhaps I want to adjust my answer choice B because it was not very distracting to students. Maybe it was something that no student would pick, and you don't want that to be true on a multiple choice question with only 4 answer choices, because then out of luck, they can eliminate that one and they're likely to get the other ones correct. So you're able to see that at a granular level how each individual question performs. We also have something called a discrimination index, which allows you to compare how the top 27% of the students performed, so the students who performed in the top 27% of the exam, versus the students who performed in the lowest 27% of the exam, and compare them. You want your question to discriminate between high and low students. You want the higher the discrimination index is to 1, the closer it is to 1, that means it was a more discriminating question. Now you can also have a negative discrimination index. This indicates that the students who performed in the lowest 27% were more likely to get this question right. That's a problem. You would look at that and you'd say, I need to go adjust that question, because either the answer is not correct that I put is the answer that was correct, or it means that I did not word it right because my top students are less likely to get it than my bottom students. And so you have this data, and professors, you can give this data to professors, because again, this is on individual items at a granular level, to adjust their questions, to sort of perfect their assessment and make sure they are assessing the right thing, and they know how many questions are in a certain difficulty range. They know that their questions are discriminating between the top and the bottom students. They know that they're not just, they know that they're solid questions assessing what they're supposed to assess. You also have the flexibility to customize your report to get the grades that you want, the grades that you want published in whatever system you want. So you can get student information and student grades and choose what information you want included in that report. Finally, and this is really powerful, is the ability to have longitudinal analysis. So far, we've been talking about analysis on a specific exam. I'm able to see how students performed on that specific exam, and yes, I can get a lot of feedback from that, especially if I look at the categories. But what's powerful is across exams. And so to run this longitudinal report, what you need to specify first is a time frame. What time period am I looking at? And maybe I'm looking at just 1 year, maybe I'm looking at a semester, maybe I'm looking across 3 years. But you can specify what time frame you want to see. You next filter by whatever courses, and you can include all courses that are related in that time period that you specify. So maybe you only want to look at courses students take the first year. Maybe you want to see across all 3 years, all the performance. That is decided by you based on what you're looking for. And then you can select the categories or learning outcomes. So if you have institutional-wide learning outcomes that you want to track, you can select only those. If you're looking at all learning outcomes that have been assessed, you can select all of those. And then you can also specify the exam taker group or exam takers. So maybe I'm only looking in that year at how my accommodated students performed. Maybe I want to see that my accommodated students have grown. Or maybe I only want to look at year 1, and I've classified that in my system, and so I only want to see that group. You can do that in this type of reporting. And then all you do is run it. And you run the report, and you can see the specific learning outcomes for the students as well as the group average. Here we have the learning outcomes from Bloom's taxonomy: recall, analysis, synthesis, and evaluate. And we're able to see overall on the group how they performed as well as on individual students. So if I run this report at midterms, and then I run this report at finals, because I've run it at midterms, I might know I've tested evaluate just as many times or about as many times as I've tested all the other questions. But my students are not performing as well, and you target that. You find a way to target that. And by finals, when you test it, if you've made improvement, you can say the steps that you've taken have led to that positive learning outcome. And you have that tracked, and you have that historical data. So you have the ability to see that growth, and then you can make changes on a programmatic level, and you can see, well, these changes were targeting this. Now you can see if it worked. And if it's working, you can continue to do it, and if it's not working, you adjust. But now we have the ability to see where students are at and to make sure that we're helping them. So Brian's going to summarize sort of the main functionality and really where we see assessments going sort of across education and specifically in law. And then we'll show some of those new features.
Thanks, Beverly and Emmanuel. We showed you, or tried to kind of show you some of the benefits of using this kind of data and starting to track the embedded data that's a part of your assessments and using that data in specific feedback so people can take action on that and improve both their personal performance and also the institutional performance across the board. Just to wrap everything up, at the higher level, using the data in this way is going to help you document the depth of your curriculum coverage as well as the density of that coverage. And it's going to do that specifically for each individual goal that's tied to a learning outcome. You'll have this kind of data set. You'll be able to use that to give it to the people where it's going to affect them in the greatest way. At the student level, you'll be able to give this the specific data back to the students that allows them personally to identify their own strengths and weaknesses and take action on that. And that's the point, to use this information and give it to the people that need it so that they can take action on that and change the outcome, change their performance in a way that they can't before if you don't have that or you don't give that to them. And then on the faculty level also, you start to provide them with the sort of rich data that allows them to improve their pedagogy, that allows them to adjust their teaching methods if they see that it's not being as effective as they would like. All right, so we kind of tried to summarize the benefits of that. We showed you the individual tools that you would actually use to start this process. And then Beverly showed you a little bit about the specific feedback items that you can provide across the board. So using all three of those resources together, we really think that that this is going to be something that in the future, it may not be right now, but in the future, is going to greatly benefit the legal community so far as adhering to their institutional learning outcome goals, the same way that we see it currently, greatly and dramatically improving the performance of institutions in other verticals like medical, pharmacy, and nursing. All right, so that's all we have on pretty much the benefits of using the full suite and tracking, and the benefits of tracking specific data and taking out that embedded data in your assessments themselves. And now what we wanted to do is kind of give you a sneak peek of what we've been up to and some of the things that we have coming up a little bit later on.
Quick question, Bryant. On the category of questions, can you adjust the categories after the exam has been administered, much like you change the answer choice once it's administered?
You absolutely can. So that gives you the flexibility to go back and actually look at certain reports and kind of conditionally, if you want to take a look at how that information or how that feedback would be adjusted, if you made an adjustment after the fact, you can absolutely do that.
And then can you assign multiple categories to a particular question? So let's say there's a question that a faculty member is trying to assess two types of categories. Is that possible?
That's absolutely possible also. And the manual will try to show that a little bit where you're unlimited there. Generally, with best practices, so it doesn't get a little bit unmanageable, we suggest from 3 to 5 categories. But yes, you can assign multiple categories per individual question. And then run individual reports.
I'd like to add on to that as well. So that ability to add multiple categories, things to think about are sort of like Bloom's taxonomy, the difficulty level of the question. Are they asked to just do knowledge recall, or are they asked something deeper to do sort of analysis? So that's one breakdown of the type of question. Another is content related. What content is actually being tested here on this question? And another may be the question type. Maybe how the scenario is being presented versus, and I'm sure there's different examples of how scenarios can be presented. Maybe you find that the student struggles at a certain type of question regardless of the context. That information would be useful. So those are some examples of some learning outcomes that would be useful to be assessed, and it makes sense for one question to specify those learning outcomes.
Yes.
I think this is really fantastic stuff. I'm picturing in my own environment a couple things. First, the mere fact that very few of our professors offer or administer midterms, first of all. So we're pretty much based around this 2 times a year cycle of administering exams. And even with these tools, again, student, Jane Doe, she gets all this great assessment, but it's after her crim law exam in the beginning of the spring semester. She took the exam in December, kind of defeats the purpose. So 2 questions. One, have you engaged with any law schools who really feel excited about this and are going to change their curriculum in some fundamental ways? And 2, it seems to me that you would have to have the IT people working very closely with the knowledge experts, the faculty members themselves, on how the hell to categorize each question, because I wouldn't know first darn thing about, well, I don't know, if I read this question, I'm not going to know where this professor would want to categorize it. So it's a very time-intensive process to work with your individual faculty, and some of whom are writing the exams up until the night before, in my experience. So, I mean, practically, I think this is fantastic. I'll just preface this, but I'm just worried about the logistic realities of implementing it.
And we've seen that across the board. We hear it from all of you guys.
Yeah.
Like I said, we've tried to corner you guys before this session to kind of talk to you about it a little bit. And we hear exactly that. We hear what you're saying with the logistics that come up. Question one. Yes, we have actually started to engage specifically law schools in this type of usage of the full suite itself.
Okay. And
it's in the minority now, of course, but they're very enthusiastic about the outcomes that they can actually affect using it in this way. Okay. So yes, there are people out there in the legal community that are starting to do this. Secondly, and as a part of that maybe, yes, with the logistics now, the way they're set, as we talked about Sally being a law student, she gets the feedback sort of in an assumative manner. It's at the end when she really can affect so much the learning outcomes for that particular course. And you're right, the assessment method would have to be adjusted a little bit, more towards what we see in alignment with something like a medical school or a nursing school or something like that, where the assessments are given in a bit more formative manner. So instead of just at the end to summarize what you know, as you go along the way, these individual subject matters are tested. And it's almost like a semester-long longitudinal analysis of these subjects. You get the feedback as you go along, and it helps you to take action on that, and you can affect your own outcome. By the time you get to the end, hopefully you're where you need to be, because all these other assessments, you were given the information you needed to improve.
I mean, it seems so elegant and so appropriate and so perfect in the face of all this pressure we're feeling as law schools, but try to convince our faculty of that.
And you hear that. Faculty buy-in is really the biggest obstacle that we're hearing from you guys. And we talked a little bit, our manual talked a little bit about that with the way we design the tools. The tools, we put a lot of work into designing this interface and designing the tools so that hopefully in the future, when we can start to have this conversation on a broader level and expose this more to faculty, they'll be able to come in, see the value. Once they see the value, actually get into the software itself and find out that it's not so scary. That the tools are not that hard to use. And in the other verticals where this is widely used, what you see is, for the most part, you guys do all the work for the faculty. They come to you with the minimal stuff they have, and then you make the magic, you make it happen. What you see in the other verticals is the faculty is given direct access to their own space where they can do all the work. They can create their exams, they can enter their items, they can build their own category structure, and they can track that. They have access to all that, and with a click of a button after the fact, they can release it when they're happy, all the individual feedback back to the students. So it's going to be a process, yes, but what we're trying to do is push this conversation so that we can start to get exposure more to faculty and start to get them involved in the process. So at some point, we're where in law where the other verticals are right now. I think in the back, Sarah was.
Yeah, I was just going to say that we're starting to do a little of this, and I have slightly the flip. As soon as I went to some of our faculty and showed them what they could do with it, I had 5 or 6 jump on it, and I said, you want it? Your exam has to be done 2 weeks ahead. It's got to be finished. It's got to be to our IT people, and they were willing to do it. My IT team is this is a new exam set up for them. I'm a little leery that they're going to be willing to hand it over to the faculty who are now, not all of them, but many of them kind of saying, no, let me have it, let me start working with it, let me build. So I think the learning and growing and trust kind of has to go both ways. And I suggest that even if you have faculty that are doing end of year, my school requires 2 assessment devices, and we have a midterm put into our calendar. Even if you don't have that, if you can set it up and work with some faculty and say, okay, let me just work it with your final, and you show them what they could have had,
Yeah.
they may be quite willing to do that low stakes 15% midterm just to see.
Yeah. What school is it?
CUNY.
And that's a good point. It's going to be a process, and you're going to have to kind of build a trust to work around the logistics that are in place right now. Eventually, that's where we want it to be, and we're trying to do that. We're trying to expose it right now and work with individual faculty members, even outside of the usual administrators that we deal with at institutions, because they see the value, and we want other faculty to be exposed to that. So we're trying in kind of in that direction also, not just going through the institutional administrators. Kelly?
Midterms, reproduce like bunnies. We've had, it used to be 3 years ago, we had midterms first semester for 1 ounce. Now, more here, more there, more here, more there. And ever since, we were able to do multiple choice, they all want midterms now, but they all want them all on their schedule. And this one's going to have it on, I'll put it up, this one's going to have it on whatever. So as you get into this, one of the things to keep in mind is that it doesn't fall within your finals sort of a schedule. But there's stuff that you have to lay out ahead of time to make sure everybody knows what's going on when. It doesn't show up at your door, 2 hours before the exam. And say, why don't my students have a form? We have a midterm next month.
Yeah, that's a good point. With the logistics as they are right now, the tracking of different schedules is going to need to be monitored. Let's put it that way. And until you can actually get this into full faculty usage, where they can pretty much do their own thing whenever they want to do it, yeah, you're going to have to keep an eye on that. So that's a good point, Kelly.
Have you seen any state bars produce results to students from ExamSoft of all the feedback?
The feedback, they do get, eventually they get their results back along with, it's generally not detailed in this way, it's more out of pass-fail kind of general feedback. But one thing that we are developing that we want to show you is a tool that they use now. A lot of them do it manually, but we're providing a way to actually do this and integrate it into the system so that you can get the exact same type of objective question analysis back in from things like essay exams. So we'll show you that in a little bit. So, you guys don't have any more questions on the mining that data out of your assessments? Emmanuel's going to give you a little bit of a sneak peek on some of the development we've been busy at.
Yeah, the first one here is assignment Dropbox. Some of our clients came up to us and they wanted a way for the students to work on assignments, not using soft tests, and then for them to be able to upload the papers in a central location where whoever is in charge of printing can access that information and print out the papers. So we came up with assignment Dropbox. Now with assignment Dropbox, the students can have multiple assignments open at once. Again, the use of soft tests is not required. Okay, and of course the assessments will have to be non-secure since they're not using soft tests. And they would be able to upload the papers in any file types that they want. They can use PDF, DOC, it's going to be up to them. And again, with assignment Dropbox, it was designed to integrate with exam and all anonymous reading numbers. Okay. So quickly, this is how you create an assignment using assignment Dropbox. You just fill in the information, the title for the assignment. You also have the option to select when to make that assignment available for download. You can also put an upload deadline, meaning like, this is when they have to upload the papers by. And the admins in the back end will be able to tell exactly who uploaded the papers late and who did it on time. So you guys will be able to track all that information. You also can link that assignment to a specific course if you want to. You can tie it to a specific exam manager. And you have the option to either attach a document where the students can download if you want to do that, or you can just create it in a way where they can just go and upload the papers without having to download anything. So you do have those two different options. And here is all the different file types that they can upload the papers in. As you can see, we have quite a few of them. And we are going to add that pages as one that's going to be tested, but we should have that pretty soon. Okay. The next one here is Soft-Test M. Up until now, students were able to take their exams only on computers. It can be a personal computer or lab computers. Now with Soft-Test M, they are not able to take their exams on iPads. Okay. The exams can be secure or non-secure. You can have attachments. And the interface basically makes it very, very easy to use.
Yeah, so we're really excited about the Soft-Test M app, so the ability to test on an iPad. So in addition to expanding how you can view assessments in terms of learning outcomes, we're also expanding how you can take an assessment. So with the Soft-Test M, you have the ability to do the secure exams and have them be offline as well. You have the ability to add the attachments inside individual questions if you're using our exam intelligence solution. And in addition to pictures, if anyone stopped by the table and actually seen the new app, we have a video embedded as well, so you can embed all sorts of things inside a question that you are using to assess students. And finally, it's got some really cool features. You've got the same robust features, the ability to set an alarm, but it's really slick and easy to use. You can X out choices, answer choices. You can see how much time you have remaining if it is a timed exam. You've got the same robust features, just now on a different device.
Did you say it's pretty and shiny?
It's pretty and shiny, absolutely. It's gorgeous. So I want to talk a little bit about rubrics, because this is coming soon, and it's really an opportunity to change, really adding learning outcomes into essay assessments. So a rubric, it's just a scoring tool that has you define the criteria for an assignment. It defines the objectives you're testing. And what you can use this for, once you've created a definition of what you want to define, you can use that on an essay, a presentation. You can do it on a clinical. If a student is working with a client and you want to see that they have approached the client in a specific way and have met certain criteria, you can do it on a performance. Anything objective or subjective, you can define what would make an exemplar response and have it so that you know what you're expecting the student to be able to achieve, because that should be what you're teaching to. What you want them to achieve, that should be the end result. And so this is a sneak peek to what we're developing, rubrics, which will come out this school year, is the ability to create that rubric. It's simple. This information is all sort of pre-populated what should go in each area when you specify how many rows you want, which are the dimensions or what you're trying to assess, and how many columns that you want, so the different point value you can have. You can have it based on points. You can also have it a range. So maybe good is 7 to 10. You can make it a range so that you can have some flexibility in how you're grading. Now, the bar exams, they use rubrics when they have their graders grade, because I'm not grading every single student's essays, but I need to make sure that how I am grading is the same as how Bryant's is grading. And the only way, if you have multiple graders, to make sure that there's consistency is to have a rubric. This can be true across courses. I teach Section A of torts, and Bryant teaches Section B of torts, and we have a similar assessment. We might want to make sure that we are grading the students on the same criteria, that the students are being assessed on the same thing no matter what section they're in. So rubrics are really powerful because it can make sure that you're clear on what you're looking for, and once you've done that, it is so easy to grade. Professors find that once they put the work up front, it is much faster to grade assessments because they can specify what information is true, and then they can enter feedback on each dimension on areas that the student can improve or didn't meet. They can provide specific feedback in the right area. Notice, too, that we have the ability to tag categories. So now, categories do not just apply in terms of the feedback on those multiple choice questions. You have it on essay type questions. So I can see how have my students performed on these categories, including the fact that there's an essay on this exam, and including the fact that that's broken down into different aspects that they need to achieve in order to have been successful on it. So that's really exciting. Does anyone have questions on specifically rubrics?
Yeah. So you're talking about taking, let's say, a clinical performance, a simulation or a client, and you're going to have them see how they approach the client, how the initial questions went, if they followed up, if they were respectful, if they worked within the cultural issues raised by the client. And you would basically front load your rubric for how each student that's going to be doing this simulation or this real client, depending on, and where do you put your individual feedback?
So this is,
student?
yes, so this is how you build the rubric.
Right.
If we go back to, remember when we saw the grading where the essay was on one side, your rubric will be on the other side with individual comment boxes next to each section,
Okay.
and then a general comment box as well. So you're able to specify the points and write your comments so that you can approach each of those areas, and then when you're done grading, there's the report you run to submit the feedback to the students. They can go and log on to their portal, their custom homepage, and next to the exam upload, there'll be a link to view their results. So they can see how they've done individually. You can choose to release parts of the information. Maybe you don't want to include the rubric itself. You just want to give them the overall score in the comments. Or you can show the breakdown, which I would recommend showing the breakdown so they know where they should focus on the next time and improve.
And one final question, sorry. And where is the faculty member is doing this on their computer? It stays where? How does whoever access it?
Absolutely. So for grading, we've made it really easy for professors. So you can just specify that they're a grader and what exam, so you specify that they're going to do this exam. They're given a link, they click on the link, they log in, they can see the assignment and the rubric. Or if it's just a rubric, right, because they're not turning in an essay or something, they can see the rubric and all the students associated with it. If you want it to be anonymous, you can tie it in with anonymous grading number so it's completely anonymous. Obviously, if they see the student right in front of them, it's not anonymous. But they can do it anonymous for something like a paper, and they can just assess and then move on to the next student, and then fill out the rubric and move on. They can do that from an iPad as well. When that comes out, it's going to be iPad compatible. Eventually, I know that a lot of professors are not eager to grade online, so eventually we will have the capability to import from an Excel document if they want to specify that way. Obviously, those are comments that needs to be entered. So I'm going to let Brian conclude.
And it's interesting that you bring it up, using it for clinicals, because that's exactly where we see the demand for medical students. All right, so really we just wanted to kind of get this kind of usage out there to you guys, make sure you are aware of what the benefits were, make sure you are aware that the tools are already there in place for you. Really, all you need to do is go grab them. And then start to actually get people engaged, most significantly faculty, and hopefully in time we'll see this kind of data being leveraged out of all the assessments for law schools and benefiting law students. So if you guys have any other questions, I would be glad to take them at this time. Michelle?
So how do you plan to introduce your assessment tool to faculty? So in my particular instance, faculty have very little involvement in this process. So we're called more cosmopolitan faculty. Our faculty are rarely there. They create their exam and they disappear from the school, so they're not there. So they grade kind of willy-nilly. The students that are graduating, they get those graded first, and then they may give the students back their papers, at some point in time. But talking about developing such a thing in my environment would be, I don't know if the word difficult is the right word, but it would be hard. So how would you propose to do something like this?
First of all, our job is to make the whole process, first of all, accessible, easily accessible, and then appealing, and then easy. And that's what we've tried to do with the whole redesign. We try to make this available so that they can do this anywhere. If they're not there, it would make a difference. If they take off after their exams, it's not going to make a difference because they can access anywhere. All they need is the access that an administrator is going to provide. It doesn't matter where they do it. And then secondly, it's to make it appealing and easy for them. We put a lot of work into this redesign specifically to allow for that. We have to make it appealing and easy enough for them to take a look at it after they've seen the benefits. That's a totally different part. We have to sell them on the benefits. One of the things we're trying to do right now. And once they've seen that and they have an interest in that, and we give them access to something like this, either through the institution itself or outside of that on an individual basis, once we give them access, they have to like it. And they have to feel that it's not going to be another bothersome chore on them. So those are the kind of things that we've actually taken into account already with the redesign, and those are the kind of things that we're actually trying to promote right now.
If I could,
Yes, sir.
I'm actually also with ExamSoft. I just wanted to, well, first of all, say thank you to everybody. But one thing I wanted to add to that was that, especially when it comes to some of these sort of newer kind of pedagogical tools that we're introducing here, it starts with progressive faculty who are, really interested in progressing and utilizing new technology, new tools. But one of the things that we're doing to support folks like that, because they're out there, as well as to support you guys, is that we have routine webinars, and we can also do custom training sessions for you. So if you have folks at your individual schools who are interested, and you'd like some help in conveying the message, or frankly, you just want to hand off the ball and have us do the work, that's something that we're very happy to get.
Yes, sir.
So, if I go back and try to talk to my IT people and say, let the faculty at this and let them play, are they going to break it?
No, because that's always primary concern. But no, and that's because, especially in the new portal, right now you can give them individual access to only their little playpen. All right, so they don't touch anything else. They can only get here. But that's going to become even more detailed and even more controllable through the new portal. The assignment of security rights is going to be expanded. All right, so you'll have the ability as an administrator to make their space and only allow them access to that certain space, while still at a higher level yourself controlling, kind of having an overview and a monitoring ability of that space itself.
And then can I add that, so when they're creating their questions, they can create their questions without ever seeing any of the course information, all the courses that students are enrolled in, ever see any of the information that you track on what is currently the custom homepage. Granted, it will all become one product, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be able to suddenly see that information. That information is for administrators. They can see maybe a folder where they can keep questions. If you want, they can see their areas where they can create their own categories. But they're not going to, if you don't give them rights, they're not going to be able to go and see Professor Y's categories and Professor Y's questions. They're not going to be able to go in there and see those unless they decide that they want to share and you give them rights to.
So that's one part of it, but the other part is my IT people saying, no, I get to do this, the faculty go through me to develop the questions. What you're telling me is the faculty should go run with it, take it after, and I don't know this, you need to tell me, X level of training, it's their baby. My IT staff doesn't have to be involved, is that right?
That's correct.
That is
And
correct.
it goes back to what someone else was saying.
I have a comment on that, actually.
All right,
So, I think the challenge that you'll face is that faculty, they are so used to using Word documents where it's printed the night before and then administered the day of the exam. The problem with ExamSoft is that students have to download the template in order to do it, and so if students come into the exam frantic that they now have to re-download something because a faculty member decided to change a question, that I think gets challenging.
I
So
get
the
that, but
timing,
what
I
I've
think, is-
done is, and I do have more power than many because of my position. I'm academic dean, which is if you're going to do this, you do it this way or you don't do it. And if you don't do it this way, you better have a backup to walk in and you're going to have the bubble thing. But I've seen many faculty just leak that depth of information that they're getting out of some of these just early reports. And I've been surprised at how many have been willing to play by the right rules.
I'm surprised that at the same time, I mean, I'm pleased to hear that, but I'm surprised that you're getting pushback from, of all people, your IT department. I mean, I would think they would welcome the idea of faculty taking a little bit more of ownership and responsibility. So,
My sense is because it's new, they're still learning it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so this is a dance that is,
right.
the IT department gets more comfortable, maybe they'll get more comfortable giving up some,
Yeah, it's interesting.
there's a little turf.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, I guess if I could add something on this, I mean, we've seen this get rolled out really a few years ago into other academic disciplines, and really personally, I'd say there is no one-size-fits-all solution. Different schools have different approaches. Very commonly, a school will start with a centralized group of 1, 2, 3 people who will lead the charge and maybe coordinate activities, and then they expand the use beyond that over the course of time. Other schools will take the approach of, hey, guess what? We have a new tool. You're all going to learn it. I think that's the minority case. But it happens.
Just real quick, does it integrate with any of the course management systems now, or do you plan to integrate them with them?
Yes, but I want to turn it back to these guys.
It actually does. We have integration with certain tools like Blackboard. So certain data sets can be related back and forth between our database and the Blackboard database, course information, grades, student information, things like that, so that you don't have to constantly update that and you don't have to worry about it, and it's pretty much an automated process. So yes, right now, and as we go along, depending upon the demand, we'll start to build more APIs to integrate with more LMS tools that are out there, but right now it's primarily Blackboard. And Sarah, to go to your point, and you bring up a good point when you're just talking that at your school, I know you're pretty new in the last year to using the product itself, so maybe you can understand how your IT staff is. I'm still in this process. Let me get a little bit more comfortable before we go and do something like generally disseminate this to faculty, so it's understandable. Great. Well, I want to thank you guys for coming. I hope it was useful to you, and if you have any questions, Rowdy. Here's the way it looks right now. Whatever reason.